Good day, everyone. My name is Ruth Hayhoe, and I'm a professor at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. And I've spent about half of my adult life working in Chinese education in different parts of China and been truly blessed. My life has been about introducing Chinese education to Canada and to the Western world. So I'm very happy to be with you today. And I do have a Chinese name, Xu Meider. So I'm just going to share with you some thoughts as you graduate from the SuOn Academy. First, congratulations. I understand this is the 15th graduation ceremony, and the SuOn Academy has a very special bridging role between Ontario and Jiangsu province. Jiangsu, of course, a very rich educational province in China with a wonderful history of educational progressive ideas and so on. And then here you are in Ontario. I understand after graduation, many of you will be going into university studies, and it's my privilege to be with you and to wish you the very, very best in your university studies. And what I hope you will do is bring some of the richness of your own cultural patterns and traditions into the university classrooms, into your experience in higher education and your careers in Canada. And I think you will be able to contribute a great deal from the richness of Chinese culture as you carry out your studies. I just have 2 points really that I want to share with you today. Points that I think will be a really important contribution. And the first one is the Chinese tradition giving great importance to the family. And so the person in China is seen as a social being with responsibilities. Responsibility to their family members, to their fellow students, to their society, to their nation, even to a wider world. Whereas in the Western world, the tendency has been for the person to be seen as an individual with rights that are protected by the law for participation in democratic action, for freedom of speech, and so on. That's important. Both are important. But I think what you can bring is some kind of balance by demonstrating in your study lives and your work what it means to be a social being, emphasizing your responsibility to contribute. That will be something special that you would be able to bring. The second thing I want to share with you is a more complex concept that I have learned over many years from Chinese culture. Many people know the term yin and yang. These are opposites in Chinese culture. And I think what's very, very interesting about the opposites in Chinese thinking and culture is that they are able to resist any kind of synthesis. I call it a dialectic without synthesis. So you can have Confucianism with its patterns of order and hierarchy and responsibility on the one side. Taoism, another thread of Chinese culture, close to nature, emphasizing freedom and openness to sudden insights and understanding. And these opposites can persist long-term. Unlike the Western dialect, which requires a synthesis, they can remain opposite and active, and they give a degree of flexibility and creativity, which I think is part of your heritage as Chinese students coming out of Chinese culture. This has been such an important thing to me that you can see behind me 2 scrolls. In between, you see the home when I grew up in Toronto. And back in the 1980s, I was teaching at Fudan University and learning classical Chinese. And I had the opportunity to meet a famous calligrapher there. And I was studying the classics, and I asked him to write these 2 scrolls for me. Ever since then, more than 30 years, I have taken the scrolls with me, and I have hung them wherever I was living. I was living in Beijing for a while, in Hong Kong, here in Toronto. I've always treasured them. So I'm going to share them with you today. And I think these are the 2 opposite strengths related to studies and learning and success in education as you move into higher education that are a wonderful resource for you. So let's look first at the one on the, I think it's the left-hand side from where you are looking at me. And this is from the Confucian text a beautiful description of the kind of order and pattern in Confucian culture and learning traditions. 如切如错子，道学也；如墨如作者，自修也。I translated it myself like the delicate carving of ivory, the way is learned. Like the cutting and polishing of jade, the self is cultivated. So learning is like the work of a craftsperson. It requires discipline. It requires focus. It requires order in your life. You know, the calligraphy is official script for this text. And that's something that Chinese are quite famous for. Very hardworking in terms of their academic contributions and discipline, able to master large amounts of knowledge and material in such a way that they can succeed in their examination. So this is a part of your tradition. That's very beautiful, and that you will be able to bring and share. But then we have the yin piece. I would call that one the yang piece. Then we have the yin piece over here, and it's pretty different. And I would think more affiliated with Taoist thinking. It's from the Doctrine of the Mean, and it's a quotation from the Book of Odes. 诗曰法克法克，其子不远，止克以法克，尼而失之，又以为远。This is how I translated this piece, which I love also. The Book of Odes says, the axeman is cutting the poplar tree. In fact, it's not far away. The axe handle that he holds is made of poplar. He simply needs to drop his eye. Why should he think it's far away? So this suggestion that we can be open to very sudden and deep insights that may come to us not through discipline, not through memorization or hard study, but through a heart of openness to the spirit, to nature, to the world around, a sudden flash of insight. So both of these are pieces of the Chinese cultural tradition in education, both very valuable pieces that you will be able to bring into your studies and that will enable you to be successful in your university studies and to make a contribution, bring a certain richness from your own culture into the Canadian classroom, society, into whatever profession you end up serving in. And I do feel that Canada has really benefited so much from the very large number of Chinese citizens who have become Canadians and have contributed in leadership and in many, many other ways. And I'm going to end up by reading you a short quotation from a wonderful Chinese educator whom I admired greatly. His name was Li Bingde. I actually wrote a book called Portraits of Influential Chinese Educators. And you can see him in the middle there. He studied with Piaget in Switzerland back in the 1940s. He went back to China and he trained generations of doctoral students who became leaders in Chinese education. One of them has just been appointed Deputy Minister of Education for all of China. This was a scholar that we had here working with us, and he's now taking up responsibility for leadership. So this is what Professor Li said to me, and I wrote down about Confucianism. Its special feature lies in the fact that it rejects nothing, but is able to absorb all things into itself. It is open and accepting of others, and it is neither aggressive nor adversarial. That was his depiction of Confucianism. I certainly learned that in my own personal experience. I am a Christian, and Christian faith is very important in my life and belief, but I found that many of its values harmonize also with Confucian values. So I see the possibilities for wonderful collaboration, inter-understanding, harmony, and respect. And I think this is, again, something that you can bring in your studies in universities in Ontario or more widely. So let me just finish with that, sharing you a little of my own life experience, of my understanding, and how my life as a Canadian has been enriched by my many, many years of absorption in and connection to Chinese culture. Congratulations to each of you. May God bless you as you move forward into your university careers. And I am confident you will bring much richness into our Canadian society and culture from your background and families in China. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you. And I hope this is a wonderful day of celebration for each one of you and for your families. Thank you.